Hi again, everybody. It's Cameron here from Cameron Teague Wealth Advisory. This is installment number 2 on the CSS series, and in this video today, we're going to cover off on the 5411 calculation and how it is distinctly different from the age retirement calculation. Please understand this is general advice only. The CSS is highly complicated and a highly complex scheme, and then when you incorporate that into everyone's individual personal needs, it's very, very essential that you actually get advice on the CSS. Okay, let's start. Okay, as with the age retirement video that I've already presented, it's really important to understand that there is no right or wrong answer with the CSS. It is not correct that 5411 is always better than age retirement, or that age retirement is always better than 5411. It depends on the individual circumstances, and it also does depend on the type of exit you are actually having. Now, one of the complexities that we actually have coming into this equation is redundancy. Now, we're not covering redundancy in this video. I may touch on redundancy in another video, but if you are getting a redundancy with CSS, you really, really must get personal advice. As touched on in my earlier video with the age retirement calculation, the CSS is unique in that you are able to access your pension at your retirement age. Now, this is normally 55, however, for some members, it is at age 50. Now, this is in contrast to normal super funds where anyone born after the 1st of July 1964 cannot access their benefit until age 60. So with CSS, you can access your pension at your retirement age, which is recorded with ComSuper, and that is normally 55, but may also be 50 years of age. The calculations for your CSS lifetime indexed pension will depend on whether you have taken an age retirement or a 5411 type calculation. And it's important to understand that they are entirely different to each other. And we'll now cover off on this through this video. There's two main ways to access the CSS 5411 calculation. The first one is by ceasing employment with your contributory employer prior to your recorded retirement age, whether that is 55 or 50. And not going on to another contributory employer before your retirement age. That's an important point. The second one is by taking a redundancy after age 55. This can sometimes re-trigger the CSS 5411 calculation as well. Both these circumstances do need to get advice. So let's quickly touch on how the 5411 calculation is different. Unlike the age retirement calculation, the 5411 calculation completely ignores your final super salary. It does not care if you are on 20,000 or 200,000. This calculation completely ignores your final salary. It also completely ignores your length of service. So that is starkly different to the situation we have with the age retirement. We'll now go on and do a case study to explain how this works. So now we know it is different. How is the 5411 calculation actually worked out? It's actually your basic contributions plus earnings times 2.5 times an age-based factor. Now, the age-based factor is based on the age at which you decide to take your benefit. For consistency, we're going to use the same case study, which is with Phillip. Phillip's 54 years of age. He's looking to retire from the public service. He's been in since age 20, so he's had 34 years of service. He's consistently contributed at his standard 5% plus occasional extra contributions, and he's currently in an EL1 role with a super salary of $108,000. So how does this look with a 5411 calculation for Phillip? Okay, so first let's touch on what basic contributions are, and then I'll show you where to find them. So your basic contributions are your after-tax contributions that you have been making to CSS through your career. This is usually 5% in after-tax contributions. They do not include the supplementary contributions where someone has made additional contributions to their super fund. Now, these basic contributions are either going to be invested in the default option or the cash option, and this is going to have an impact on your index pension, so we'll touch on that in the next few slides. So now that we know basic contributions plus earnings is important in this calculation, where can we find it? If you are currently a contributing member to the CSS, you will locate your basic contributions plus earnings on the bottom of page 4. And as you can see in this slide, there's an example here. It even says to the right, this is the amount used to calculate your CSS deferred pension, also known as 5411. Okay, so we now know that it is basic contributions plus earnings times 2.5. We know where to find them. And then we know it is multiplied by a age factor. Now, the age factors are basically available on the CSS website, and it does depend on the age at which you decide to claim your deferred benefit. So in this case, on this slide, I've highlighted the age factor for age 55, which is 0.0925. And you can see each year that age factor increases. So that is the other variable that is important in this calculation for your CSS index pension under the deferred 5411 type calculation. Okay, let's pull all this together for Phillip. So we know that Phillip's basic contributions plus earnings are $275,432.22. This came from Phillip's CSS 2019 member statement. We then multiply that by 2.5, and then we multiply that by the age factor. And in this case, because Phillip is considering doing the 5411 claiming at 55, the age factor is 0.0925. Remember, this age factor can change, obviously, depending on when you claim your CSS. So in this case, the index pension for Phillip under 5411 is $63,693.70. Now, this is vastly different to the index pension for Phillip under age retirement. Now, I must stress again, it is not always the case that 5411 beats age retirement, and it's not always the case that age retirement beats 5411. This is why it's so important to get advice. Okay, let's look at the key points for 5411. First of all, 5411 does not consider at all your superannuation salary. It also does not consider at all your length of service and how long you've been in your job. It is looking purely at your basic contributions plus earnings and your age factor at retirement. So I can't really stress this enough. It ignores entirely your salary and how long you have been working in your role. It is literally just those basic contributions, so not supplementary, basic contributions plus earnings, multiplied by 2.5, and then multiplied by a factor based on your age at claim. Okay, just to wrap this up before it gets too long, the key component with the 5411 calculation is that basic contributions plus earnings. If you're in the default option, this will fluctuate up and down every year, and in fact every day. If you are in the cash option, it will not fluctuate, but it will also cease to go up by very much. Please understand this video is general advice only. Everyone's situation is unique, and the answer for everyone is going to also be unique. So it's very, very important with CSS to actually get personal advice. I can't stress this enough. It is the one fund in all of the super funds in Australia that is highly, highly, highly complicated. And there are traps and pitfalls that people can fall into if you are not making the right decisions. So please ensure you do get personal advice from a licensed financial advisor who understands the scheme. And please understand, this is for educational purposes to hopefully engage you in understanding how your benefit can work, and it is general advice only. Thank you.